Speaking of hunchbacks, for being set in Paris,
Were we
there's
speaking of
like what
hunchbacks?
one
Oh, wait.
weird deformed dude in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Is he
Yeah,
deformed or does he
I think
just
he's very
have
much.
I think he's
like
just got a real bad skin condition.
adult onset adult acne? It's just, it's not a, some people have that. Hold on.
He's got a weird yin and yang thing because that guy's deep underground, and Quasimodo was like way over the top of the ground. So it's
Yeah.
like kindred spirits, really. It's just a shame they never
You
met.
say
I
that.
guess,
I
but
now I'm thinking Quasimodo is probably the braver of the two for being so out in the open.
Listen, if I learned anything from the Disney movie of Hunchback in Notre Dame, that dude was like the most extreme guy in all of Paris. Did you see him like whipping around columns and sliding down the buttresses and
Oh yeah,
like
he's
doing
like Tarzan.
weird, like Tarzan stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would have been a great musketeer.
He would have.
also have to go up against a very horny religious figure and
Yes.
religious villain
That's true.
in that movie too. So yeah,
We like
it's the
our
thing going
religious
through
villains.
Disney. This is 93, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then Aladdin was 92.
Jafar
then-
very horny.
Jafar, essentially the same villain. Like,
Yeah.
it's borderline
Hold
just
on,
the same
save
guy.
it, save
Like-
it, save it, save it, save it, save it. We'll say this in 2 seconds.
We're recording, right? This is good opening fodder. I'm just
No. This is too
Oh.
long for the opening.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
The opening is a little.
that's what she said?
Real
Now, was that a good opening?
Is
We'll talk about openings later when we meet the Countess de Winter. Now that's a good
Oh.
opening. Roll the music.
Ah, bust right through with that one.
welcome to Sword Boys Cut by Cut. I am one of your Sword Boys, Rick.
I'm another sword boy, Robin.
Bonjour, I am Jonathan.
That's right. And we are talking about cut 3 of the Three Musketeers. It begins at 34 minutes, 32 seconds, and it ends at 51 minutes, 45 seconds, beginning with the Cardinal entertaining a cloaked figure and ending with Porthos being inspired to dance. Joining us as our own cloaked figure today is none other than Niall from the Batminute podcast.
That's why I don't so much have a cloak as a very overflowing sort of hoodie scenario I've got going here. But it could borderline it. If I was slightly smaller, it would double as a cloak, I would
Listen,
say.
whatever hides your identity from all of the people locked up in Richelieu's dungeon, I do have a bit of a suspicion. Is this cloaked figure wearing a cloak to keep their identity hidden from the prisoners? Because, as we're going to find out, it's Rebecca De Mornay and she would drive them insane? Or is it like packed with aromatics so she doesn't have to smell the prisoners? What's going on here?
Mm.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Back in that era of France, I think everyone, even the fancy people, stank anyway, right? Because they
Fancy people stank. Yep.
Yeah, although you do see someone have a very like a very languishing bathing scene at one point in this film. So like at least one rich person was washing, But
I assume it was very chilly and dank down there,
Mhm.
And I'm an expert in dank.
yeah.
Okay.
But thanks for having me on, fellas. Like I thought I'd finally gotten away from the death grip of Chris O'Donnell, but here I've been dragged back in to talk about this guy again. God damn it!
Just try not to like stick your tongue like he does in Batman Forever.
I have to say that this is one because like I spent so many people don't know me who listen to this. We obviously, me and my co-host John host Batminute. We covered every minute of both Joel Schumacher Batman films, and beyond. So we've talked about every minute of Chris O'Donnell as Robin. Talked about how he's way too old. He was such a whiny asshole in it. His character is so inherently unlikable. And yet, when I go and watch this movie, I totally get why you would have cast him as Robin, because you're like, oh, I find him very charming in this film. I think he's actually.
Oh,
I think
I
this
thought
is
you
a
were
way better.
describing D'Artagnan.
Yeah, this is a way better. It's all similar stuff. It's many ways it's the same kind of story. Even the whole thing with like you just sub in Michael Wincott for Two-Face. There you go. It's the same finale and everything and stuff. But it's I think they gauge it right, like much better in this. So he comes across as more digestible. And I don't know, maybe it's just he's just got a better haircut or something on top of it as well.
His hair is beautiful in this movie.
Yeah,
I had a suspicion that it was the hair.
I think a lot of it is, yeah, because I never got into the old Robin buzz cut. I know, Jonathan, you have an affection for sideburns and forever because you were rocking those for a while yourself. But it's yeah, I think this is a better version of the Dick Grayson story. Is Chris O'Donnell as D'Artagnan? So I think watching this is like I almost kind of get him now as to what his appeal was in the first place.
Well, as we watch this, I am also watching Vertical Limit. I watched it last night because I'm now I'm kind of doing a seance of his work, and he's not likable. Chris O'Donnell is not likable. In most movies, he comes off as, like at the beginning of this movie, that D'Artagnan, I think is the closest to Chris O'Donnell. The one who picks 3 fights.
Yeah.
With 3 separate musketeers. I'm not saying the guy is unlikable. Obviously, he's likable because they put him in a ton of shit and he's still working today. But
I find that fascinating because, one, I should, if I may plug, once you're done watching Vertical Limit, me, John, and friends of the show, Murren and Chessa, did a review of Vertical Limit and talked about the extreme eroticism between the brother and sister duo that's in that movie. But also, like, my main knowledge of the D'Artagnan story, and I don't know if it was ever big in America, was, of course, the childhood classic Dogtanian and the Muskehounds.
Nope.
Oh, classic.
we're all
Absolutely.
looking at you like you're crazy.
No,
Was that an episode of Wishbone or something like that?
probably. I'm sure Wishbone probably
Is
did.
this why people like Bluey so much? Is this what Bluey is?
Oh no, but like it's such a stranglehold over me and people. Like if you talk to like Neil Brown, like another friend of the show, he'll like if he's like, oh, but Dogtanian and the Muskehounds, he'll start doing the one for all and all for one. Like it's a theme tune that just infuses itself into your bones when you're a child. I haven't seen it in like 35 years, but it's still dwelling inside me somewhere. But as I recall in Dogtanian, the character, was an asshole. And all he would do was go around and just vindictively start fights with people. And I was just like, why am I supposed to like this guy? In this movie, again, I kind of get like, yeah, the O'Donnell is doing that, but it's more palatable to me. Like him kind of like falling into the triple duel at the start is like, oh, that's funny. And I kind of get why it's it doesn't come across as like, what a little dickhead just going around trying to start people for the sake of starting people.
So the beginning of the movie starts out. Oh, first of all, Rick, do you want to give the timestamps?
I did.
Oh,
I already did.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then we can talk about this. This scene shows him wenching, and they kind of flipped it because they turned it into like, oh, you don't know the art of wenching. I feel like D'Artagnan knows the art of wenching at the beginning of the movie, or is he just more like a country mouse? Like he knows how to like get with country ladies, but he doesn't really understand big city whores yet. Like, is that what they're? Because it feels like they're like teaching him in this movie.
Gerard's sister is a whole different.
Well, she's a whole all right
situation. She's got those stars in her eyes, like, ooh, he's gonna go to the city and he's gonna be a musketeer. I better bet him before he's gone forever, and maybe I can trap him here. Gotcha. I'm really casting a lot of aspersions on this woman that isn't present in this movie, and that's very unfair of me, but yes. It's the movie's fault for not making her an actual character.
Well, in this movie, speaking of actual characters, female characters, this is our first. Other than the Queen seems like a great character so far. Lady in Waiting, we don't really. I mean, we know that the actress is a good actor. They haven't given her much yet to do. I know that happens later on in the movie, but this is our third. This is our third female character in this movie. I'm actually kind of, and she's good.
I don't know what to do with all these female characters that have speaking roles. This is way out of my depth.
Yeah, we're not used to this in our sword movies. They're usually they're usually it's damsels in distress, and they start out strong, and then they end up weak, and
Yeah.
So we're in a different thing. So they're in the basement of the castle, and they're D'Artagnan has escaped. Remember, he escaped last cut. They are he's waiting. He's like hidden, and we see Cyclops walk by with a hooded figure, and then the cardinal allows them into a room. And at first, I thought this was his sex room. I thought, oh, this is well. I mean, it may be his sex room. Let's be honest.
I mean, yeah,
it's his red room.
I want to talk about his dungeon office, which is an interesting thing for a cardinal to have. Does the king know it's furnished as if he has guests, or does he just believe in the finer things? Like, is the floor just littered in muck and blood, and we don't see that, or is this like I have this is his man cave. This is where he goes.
Yeah.
This is his
literally.
Yeah.
It's literally his man cave.
Manhood cave.
As someone whose office at work is in a basement, hidden away from sunlight, you got to bring stuff down into that office to make it as homey as possible to distract yourself from the fact that there's no sunlight.
Well, I think we have an expert on the podcast about men who have offices in underground caves. I mean, what do you think about this, Niall?
My big question was just I really wanted to know what he asked the carpenter who made the furniture specifically, because it's just like I want a big chair. It's like, what, like how big? It's like I want like an unnecessarily huge chair,
like a throne, kind of like a throne.
It's like a throne, but it's just like it's like it will make people standing next to it seem as if like the dimensions in your own mind are just off, because you're like, why does that person look tiny next to this huge chair? Like, I thought maybe it was just me, but I was just like, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It was like,
you might have dementia.
It could be. Maybe this is what I've learned about myself through
Countess dementia.
Can I talk a little Deparnay?
Nope, we're done.
No. How old do you think Rebecca De Mornay is when she made this movie?
I looked it up, so I can't play.
I'm gonna
later on she says you're young. So I was like, well, how old are you, Rebecca De Mornay?
Yeah, you should have been like, well, Robin's going to tell me. I shouldn't look this up.
I know.
Well, and then this is coming in the era of Hollywood where it's just like, yeah, we need an older woman, so she's like 26. I'm going to
Well, just remember that this helps now. Kiefer Sutherland is 27 in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, shoot for like 28.
34.
34. Oh wow. Oh well.
Yeah.
That makes her one of the older actors in this.
Yeah,
movie.
she's one of the oldest. She and Tim Curry.
Yeah,
the elder
tight in this
Rebecca
movie,
De Mornay. Yeah.
Holy
cow. I think one of the kind of like one of the best things in the movie, if not just flat out the best thing in the movie, is Tim Curry to me, as he is the best thing in anything he's in. But I think what might be slightly the problem is, and when he comes in here and he's doing this little skeezy, sleazy kind of flirtation with Rebecca De Mornay, the only problem is that Tim Curry is way sexier and much more like fuckable than any of the Musketeers to me. And he's just like, every time he's on screen, I'm just like, I'm here for Tim Curry. It's just and it's like, Charlie Sheen and all these. It's like, oh, whatever. It's just like, yeah, and I can guarantee there must have been generations of people who were probably grew up watching the Three Musketeers, going like, yeah, Cardinal.
At no point in this movie does the Cardinal take his vestments and just kind of drop them to the side to reveal a Rocky Horror getup, and that is the great sin of this movie.
I was working with the theory as it was going on that you could retroactively make this a Rocky Horror prequel and say this was like earlier in Frankenfurter's mission. He landed in France and just decided like, yes, I'm going to become a cardinal, and then just the horniness got to him, so he just couldn't keep it together, and he's just like, I'm going to take over France, and I really want to get some.
We talked about how famous everybody is in this movie. She's at the peak of her fame at this point.
Yeah. Earlier in 1993, in June, because this movie came out in November, in June of 93, Rebecca Rebecca de Mornay was in Guilty as Sin opposite Don Johnson. And then the feature film that she did after this was 1995's Never Talk to Strangers with Antonio Banderas. Like she was,
and she was in Backdraft, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. She'd done all those before this, so she's coming into this. She's at a Kiefer level of success and a Charlie Sheen level of success.
Gotta say, early Robin really enjoyed her performance in Risky Business, which is where she really launched onto the scene before this.
Well,
She was in
that was 1983, though. That was 10 years before.
I mean, can I tell you that certain areas on the VHS tape that got worn out a bit was that the train ride scene?
My God. Oh, you guys get to see
goodness.
Did you notice the train? I know it's hard to focus on the train, but that Chicago train is no longer used in the L. That is an older L car.
Did they have to retire it?
Oh, they did. That thing was just, it was gross. It
was covered.
It had been sexed beyond its capacity. It has a certain sex capacity. Everything in Chicago does. And so it expired.
And I will say her poster for And God Created Women, which is a movie that she starred in. That the poster is basically like a Michelangelo painting, and she's kind of like laying there and she's reaching up to God, looking sexy as hell. It was on my bedroom wall as a kid, right next to stewardess school. I went to the video store and they just gave me posters, and I was like, "Well, this is a hot one."
Those are the posters
never saw
you
it
had in your room? You had those posters in your room?
Yeah, my room at home. Yeah, right. I had to cover up all the little slugger wallpaper prints. So we're just getting deeper and deeper.
Were your parents worried about you and your horniness?
No.
Okay.
It's completely natural.
Okay.
I think that's a standard thing, though, for parents have to grapple with teenagers eventually. It's just like, there's going to be some material going up on that wall, and it's just going to prove that my child is not just a complete and utter horn dog. And
he's a huge fan of stewardess school.
I had this giant comic book poster, and I think I had a frame. Everything was framed. I had a frame poster of In Excess. So maybe my parents thought I was gay. I don't know.
Into autoerotic asphyxiation. Just like, oh yeah, there's a
I like this guy because he chokes himself. The rest of them, I don't really know. I don't really know the proclivities of the band In Excess.
Is that why you never missed an episode of Kung Fu? Because you just knew.
I just knew. I was like, oh yeah, the show speaks to me.
Some other credits I wanted to call out for her. They did the TV movie version of The Shining, and she played Wendy.
That's weirdly mine. Like, and when anyone ever mentions Rebecca De Mornay, I'm just like, oh yeah, the other Wendy. Like, I don't know why that's the one that sticks in my head, but it's like, yeah, that's what I know of.
Flip.
So Niall, your linchpins
Duvall to Rebecca De Mornay. Holy crap!
Yeah,
your in your brain is a dog as a musketeer, and then Rebecca De Mornay in a Stephen King movie. Like it's like ooh, it's very European. Look at us. Have these weird TV shows no one's heard of.
No, and I remember because that TV remake of The Shining is just awful. But it's so much more true to the book. It is that, but also it's just like because Stephen King himself came in to write it, and it's like, oh yeah, you've made your own thing, like even worse, man. Like it's a good book, it's a good original film. How have you messed this up so much? But Rebecca De Mornay is very functional, as I recall. And Steven Weber, I recall, was quite good. And I
remember that.
I remember there's a bit where because they just because it's a writer writing the script, like a writer writing the script. He just goes on massive monologues. So there's a bit where like Jack's going to hit her with the croquet mallet as it is in that. And Rebecca De Mornay is just lying on the ground listening to him for about at least 7 minutes, where she could be at any point getting up and running away. But he's just like, and I'm going to do this. And oh, Wendy, remember way back when you... And she's just there like, oh, Jack, no. Oh, Jack, no. It's just like, just get up and go, you idiot. Oh, awful film. But it's got some nice CGI bees in it, I guess. I'll give it that.
Also, Rebecca De Mornay is now officially a part of the MCU. She was Jessica Jones's mom in the series, so now if that's incorporated, then she's in the MCU.
That's cool. She's like 65 years old now, which is crazy. In my mind, Rebecca De Mornay is this. She's always. I don't actually see Risky Business Rebecca De Mornay. I see Three Musketeers Rebecca De Mornay when someone says her name. I've always thought of. I love her in this. She's great. This is a great, like, I guess B story is the right word for this, because the movie actually does have a B story. At first, you're like, there's really only one story in this movie. It is the king's in trouble. This guy's a pervert. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's go. We got to go to Calais, and get the letter. So that kind of thing. So this B storyline is great. We don't get to it really in this cut, but that B storyline is fantastic.
Yeah, I can also, because to you guys, if you guys haven't seen Dogtanian, like over here, there's a new version of the Three Musketeers like every 5 minutes, like, and it'll usually star some version of Doctor Who, and like even Tim Curry's part was played by Peter Capaldi, but on the BBC.
Still a Doctor Who in this movie.
Yeah,
oh God, we had a whoopsie we have to cover.
Oh yeah, we'll cover it when we get to
Oh, okay. Sorry.
When he shows up again, we can talk about our whoopsie from last cut that we totally forgot about.
But like, is this film kind of you guys' like familiarity with, like, or are there other Three Musketeers movies that you was sort of like, oh yeah, there's that.
The originals, I know the ones from like there's one from the 30s and there's one from the 70s. And I'm familiar with those. I had seen those probably as a younger kid, because that's what you did back then. You just watched, Three Musketeers movies, like all kids, and put up weird posters in your room, like a horn dog, like Robin. horny movies like Stewardess School. I'm
a horn dog, just like Dogtanian.
But it's one of those things. It's like Robin Hood over here, where it's just like, yeah, we had a version of the Three Musketeers last year. Guess what? We're making another one.
That's
now.
like that's one of your Macbeths. Because it's like, who has played D'Artagnan? Who has played? Because if you look at like the sequel to this movie, what we call the sequel, the Man in the Iron Mask, or Iron Mask 2, is it's always like, oh, what British and or French actors shall play these parts.
It goes down the Man in the Iron Mask playing the guy who also got to play Robin in the Leonardo DiCaprio himself as well. This is
so weird. This one's so weird. In this movie, do you look at it and go, there are not enough people from England in this movie?
I just love, I thought is it in this cut? I know it's one point in the movie. I just thought it was hilarious that like Tim Curry is like, Your Majesty, we are on the verge of war with England. And it's like, you are English, man. Like you're not even trying to not do an English accent. And it's just that great Hollywood mentality, which I genuinely love, of like, okay, so everyone here is French. Let's just pretend, okay? Yeah. Except the bad guys are English.
Let's call it the Ridley
Scott. And all the good guys are American. It's like...
It's the Ridley Scott. It's the Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's like, I don't care if you do accents, whatever. Let's do Napoleon. Ready? Roll. Roll them. Yeah. Action.
Yep.
And then they're just like, oh, we better get like one French person in here. Julie Delpy. Yeah, there you go. that's fine. Rebecca De Mornay. That sounds French. So there you go. That's
she's Austrian or something, French Belgian or whatever.
Yeah. But I was gonna say as well though, because I think France is currently doing like, they're releasing new Three Musketeers movies, but they're just breaking down the story in a longer form.
Yeah.
So I think one of them's called like Three Musketeers: D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan, yeah.
And I love that one of them is just called Three Musketeers: Milady. Just a great title. And
it's crazy because Milady is the character's actual name. It's not a title. Her name is Milady.
I know it's because I know, again, Neil Brown is a guy I know who knows Dogtanian. And so I was chatting to him last night, just like, oh, I'm going on to talk about the Three Musketeers. And he's just like, oh yeah, I had such a crush on Milady. And I was like, oh, I like the Rebecca De Mornay. He's like, no, the one from Dogtanian. It's just like
Milady and the Tramp.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So if you want to, get into a kind of bestiality talk, I'd advise giving them a call.
We usually get into that eventually.
Honestly, when it comes to Milady de Winter, there's one particular adventure I want to hear more about, because as Cardinal Richelieu goes to cop a field, which is a bold move out of the gate, just
goes for the honk
straight for the breasts. She pulls out a knife and she holds it up against his crotch, and he's like, "Oh, snap of my fingers, I could put you back on the execution block. She's like, a flick of my wrist, I can change your religion. So I want to hear the story of Milady going around 1600s France, befriending the Jewish community and becoming familiar with the bris ceremony.
Gross.
Anybody want to take it from there?
All right, so they distill the plan.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Take a treaty to the Duke of Buckingham.
Yeah, the Duke of Buckingham is going to take care of him, and then somehow Cyclops finds he like doubles back around. He's like, oh, I've learned to retrace my steps. And so he goes back around and he finds D'Artagnan listening, pulls D'Artagnan into the room. D'Artagnan's wearing this great outfit. It's the darkest clothes he wears in this movie.
I'll also say, okay, because again, so many comparisons to Batman Forever in the D'Artagnan storyline. And even then, the guy who killed his parents popping out and going, looking for me. And then the climax of Batman Forever, Robin's on the rocky island. And then Two-Face pops out and goes, looking for us. And it's like, it's the same scene. It's the God damn it. This is Joel Schumacher was just like, yeah, I like this kid. I'm just going to steal his plot line from another film and then just write in Dick over D'Artagnan. Dick-tanian. And there you go. Copy. I did find it really replace all.
I found it really awkward in Batman Forever when Robin showed up to Wayne Manor and he's like, I want to be a Batman, and Bruce Wayne's like, the Batmen have been disbanded, and he's like, oh, I'm going to fight you tomorrow then.
Mm-hmm. And he pulls out a sword, which you didn't expect.
Yeah.
To be fair though, there is at one point in there where Dick does want to become, Batboy, Nightwing. Just tell me what I got to do. And Bruce is Batman is no more and goes around with the remote shutting everything down. So there's one point Batman does disband when Dick wants to be a Batman. So it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. And of course he tries to fight him a bunch of times as well. Yeah. Well, there's, of course, Batman doing the coolest Val Kilmer gets to be as Batman is just putting up his hands and just blocking Chris O'Donnell's.
It's better than holding his head, I suppose.
Yeah. But in this
they'll let him have some dignity,
But in this scene, Richelieu is more concerned about all the things that D'Artagnan overheard during the meeting between him and de Mornay. The one thing that kind of confused me about the plan is when Richelieu says that the Persephone sails at midnight on Tuesday. Does that mean that, okay, we are in Tuesday, we are going into midnight, it is now technically 12 a.m. on Wednesday, that's when the ship is sailing? Or, like, is it Monday, and then, like, when it ticks over to midnight, it's now technically Tuesday, and the ship is going to sail? I feel like we could have had a comedic beat here where D'Artagnan was like, I heard what you were saying, but I was really unclear about the specific details about what day it actually sails. Like, are we talking like Tuesday midnight, or are we talking like midnight when it becomes Tuesday? It feels like an important detail since they need to be back by next Friday.
Yeah, no, that's a legitimate, like, if I was given those instructions, all I would be thinking is like, so you mean the start of Tuesday? It's like, no, or do you mean the end of Tuesday? Like, what is it? You're literally... No. Why would you schedule a boat at this time? Let me schedule it any other hour and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's confusing. But we also find out Calais is 200 leagues away. The ship sails Tuesday at midnight. And we need to have this treaty wrapped up and signed by the king's birthday on Friday.
Which is a week.
How?
Yeah, well, what day is it now?
She's leaving Tuesday at midnight to go to another country.
I'd like to have my finger up and say, well, actually, I looked up how far away Calais is. It's not 200 fucking leagues.
No,
200 leagues is 680 miles away. And I was like, first I said, how far is it really? It is 200 and like 294 miles away. Okay, so it's 3 times less than what they said. I was like, still 290 miles to try and get that in this time.
Wait, you got 290 miles?
No, it's 294 kilometers.
Sorry, 294 kilometers.
Yeah.
Okay, because I got 265 kilometers from Paris to Calais.
That's weird. Maybe we're going to different parts of Calais.
Were you on MapQuest?
I was on Google Maps.
Anyway, point is, he overshoots it, and I was like, oh, he could actually have gone to Wales. Wales is 690 miles away from were miles because I converted it. I was like, I'm not talking about kilometers.
I think we got it backwards because like my math it said that 294 kilometers from Paris to Calais, which then in my conversion equals 1,420 leagues, which Aramis says later it's over 200 leagues away, and he's right.
This sounds almost as painful to translate as cups into grams at this point, the whole kilometers miles.
Yeah, no. Because I use okay. Is there something there? Is there a difference between a nautical league and a league?
Yeah, there is no figure that.
I couldn't find
how many extraordinary gentlemen are involved.
Okay, so in my research, the French league was 3.25 to a little over 4.5 kilometers, somewhere in that range.
The French league was a treaty that was probably signed in the 1870s.
Are we talking about the French Foreign League?
Yeah. I don't follow that. I don't follow their soccer team.
Isn't that what Connor volunteered for when he found Rachel in the middle of World War II?
Yes.
French league.
I was in the French Foreign League.
Anyway, that was Math Corner.
But, yeah, basically, according to Google Maps, and
it's 3.5 hours away.
I'm equating
by car.
I'm equating a bicycle to a horse, but it should only take you about 18 hours of travel.
It's a day and a half
inside of one day if you like abuse your horse.
But that's just getting to
French,
Calais.
The French like luxuriate though, so it's like, oh, we only want to be in the road for like 2 hours, then you got to stop and just have a couple of drinks and learn.
And we're also basing it in our minds. We're basing it on current roads that go straight to places, as opposed to whatever the hell's going on. Half this movie, they're in the woods. So
well, actually, maybe it takes less long because you can cut through any woods you want. You're on a horse; it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean, besides like going over cliffs and stuff.
I was freaked. Not to get into a side tangent, but earlier this week I got turned around on my way to my new job, going to my new office.
Is it in the woods?
No, the thing is, it's in the middle of central Manchester. Somehow I got led out by Google Maps into like the woods. I didn't even know that we were nearby. At one point, I was walking up a flight of stairs that were just wooden blocks nailed into the mud that was just up this hill. I was like, where the hell am I? Like, I had to eventually give up, get an Uber that ended up costing like 15 quid because I was like 40 minutes away from my original destination. But it felt as if I'd slipped through some nexus of time. It was...
Are you now working for Sped the Hunchback, selling slaves on the River Shale or something like that?
Well, not anymore because I was that late. Like he was, he was not happy with my performance on my third day. God damn it!
You dodged a bullet with that one because you can't understand a word he says because he's constantly stuffing his face and the food starts falling out.
15 quid is $19 for those of you that need a conversion.
Is that a nautical dollar?
It's a nautical dollar. All right, so D'Artagnan's gonna be murdered. Gonna be have his head chopped off because everyone knows the French love this. The French love cutting people's heads off.
Okay, since we're correcting ourselves from last episode, I mentioned in the next time that he was going to hang. I was wrong. He is going to have his head lopped off because that's the French thing.
Yeah.
English people hang. French people get their head cut off.
Right.
That's how it works.
Chris O'Donnell is always hung in some way, but you know.
He's hung.
I mean, I was wondering if we were going to get through a cut without talking about it. But speaking of cuts, wow, I mean, I'm sure his is. Also, hey, we got a couple of callbacks to Highlander in this cut where they say you object to losing your head, and O'Donnell's like, yes, I like it where it is. And then later on, I think somebody literally says, "Don't lose your head." So
yep,
if D'Artagnan was a Highlander.
So was there here's my question. Is he the first? I guess he's the first cut of the day. Can you imagine if Porthos had to like actually murder people earlier? Is this like the thing of the day today? Like there's just going to be one beheading today. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be a huge crowd. Let me just put it this way. They're not pulling him in. This is our first look at what influencers looked like back then. They'd be like, hey, we're gonna have a beheading if you want to show up. And the first
King and Queen aren't there.
Yep. This isn't that impressive. This is just like, remember, this is for the poor rabble. Look, if we've all learned something from these movies, the rabble love death and heads.
So death, also juggling. There's a
They
random
do?
juggler in the crowd.
Oh, and
of course,
puppets. They always love marionettes. Have you ever
And,
noticed that poor people love marionettes?
of course, the fire breather there, like another Batman callback with the random. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the same guy, like the same performer at least.
Why is that in there? It's not a festival. This
I think,
isn't
maybe
like
I think that might be an indication that like this is just the entertainment for the crowd. So it's like, yeah, we have the warm up before the execution. You can watch a juggler, you can watch a fire eater. We got the whole show going on here, and then we watch Porthos kill 15 people waiting on the way up. And then it's just like, that's why he has to make sure the thing's still sharp because he's like, God, might have been getting through a lot with this axe today.
Yeah, and he does a Gallagher. He kills a melon. By the way, the people love this shit too. The dumbest people in the world love Gallagher, so the dumbest people in France love a good melon beheading. And this is where we as a group of sword boys have to. This is our mea culpa. Is that French? No. And we have to say we're sorry for what we did last week, last cut. In this episode is also we get to see Rolf shows up again. Right, his name's Rolf, right?
Talking about
Hey, everybody, I'm here to play the piano.
Is his name Rolf?
I thought his name is Gerard.
Oh, I want it to be Rolf now. Anyway, wait, was Rolf one of the Three Musketeers' sons in the next movie? Am I getting it confused again with the goddamn next movie?
I wonder if you're getting confused with Hawk with Ranulph, maybe, or
No, I don't know it doesn't
I
matter.
have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll have to look it up now while we're talking. But anyway, Doctor Who shows up.
Yeah.
And we forgot last week or 2 weeks ago we talked about the guy who played the assistant to the manager of the Redcoats. And we were like, he seems familiar, but we can't find out who he was.
Is his nose real?
Is
What's
his
going
nose
on?
real?
Yeah.
It's the same fucking actor.
Yeah.
Paul
At which
McGann was
point
like,
we-
I'll put on a fake nose, I'll put on a mustache. I'll get to play two roles.
And Paul McGann did put on a fake mustache and a fake nose. So I'm right. I was right on nose. My nose
right.
wig, my wigdar, my nose dar. I was like, that feels like a fake nose.
I honestly think it's because maybe O'Donnell and McGann like trained on swords together behind the scenes, and they're like, well, they do so well fighting each other that maybe we should set up a real fight between him and like the captain of the guards. Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, him McGann?
Listen,
All right.
when it comes to disguising
I got it,
yourself in
Robin. I got
Hollywood,
it. Don't worry.
The options are fake nose, mustache, or sunglasses and baseball cap. Both of those things will make you completely indistinguishable.
And they had this conversation. The nose plays. Oh, the nose plays.
Yeah.
So
Listen, I remember Rip Torn and Beastmaster. Fake noses always work out.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we knew that was Rip Torn, since we now seem to have fake nose blindness. Like, put a fake nose on anybody, and we're like, who the hell is that?
So Bradley Cooper was just getting prepped for Maestro. He watched the Three Musketeers, and he saw Rip Torn and Beastmaster, and he's like, me, yes, I will go down this route.
So his neighbor. I'm gonna go with it's his neighbor. D'Artagnan's neighbor shows up and is like, "Hey, I heard you're getting murdered. I'm glad you don't lose your head."
Yeah. We were talking about the fire breathers and the marionettes and all that. Can we just talk about the subtle comedy of having a little woman come up and hold a giant ruler, and then a tall woman mark off how long his coffin should be without the head? Which is like, hey, we got a little one and a tall one.
That's what I love about 16th century France. Everybody got a job, no matter what your physical condition was. If you were a little person like this, you know what? You can help measure the bodies for the coffins. If you've got a terrible skin condition, guess what? You can have gainful employment in the dungeon of the Cardinal's castle.
We're in a golden age here, guys. Everybody's got jobs.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite jokes in the movie. I think it's just O'Donnell's reaction of just going over this, but suddenly having to face with these two separate things and just been like, what?
What?
Oh, by the way, you're still about to get killed. So
It's revealed very subtly that, oh my goodness, it's Aramis as the priest. And who's in the headsman's cowl? It's Porthos, spouting off some nonsense about getting an axe gifted to him by the Tsarina of Tokyo.
This is like Charlie Sheen in this movie is just like Gene Parmesan. Like the amount of different times he shows up pretending to be other people.
And we got a second Sheen wink here. One more wink here. So add them up. 2 for 2.
So they Porthos, Aramis, and Athos are there. Aramis, this is the first murder by gun. Remember we talked about it in one of the previous cuts. We were talking like, do they gun people? They gun people. This cut is lousy with guns. No muskets. Not once are they using a musket. They're still using a hand. I mean, is that a musket?
Is there kind of like a sword play in this particular cut at all?
We talked about it. Yes. This is no, there's none. They don't.
No.
It shows. I actually had the question. It shows in the next cut the answer to the question, but I will ask it here. When they ride off, are they even wearing their swords? And I say no, but the movie says it is a Connor McLeod. My sword was in my coat the whole time magicness, because later on someone takes his sword from him when he falls off his horse when he passes out. But I swear to God, they did not have their swords. Like when they're in the carriage, look for a sword like on them. And I don't see one when they jump in there. And I was like, oh, they forgot their swords. This must happen all the time. This must happen all the time. Because
they could have a Gal Gadot thing going on with the old sword down. Down the slide.
It's being held by her buttocks cheeks.
Yeah, totally.
So
can I just talk about the inadequacy of the Cardinal Guard? Number one, just like they should all be fired for letting this go off. But before that, like back in swashbuckling days, like I think guard training should involve, if you get tapped on the shoulder, be prepared to get punched, because this happens all the time and you need to safeguard yourself against it. If you get tapped on the shoulder, do a quick like turn and back away. That way you don't get punched in the face. Why this guard wasn't more like practice in this training is really speaks to his experience in the field. So
and also I like that Athos went so far, or went so which one's Aramis? Which one's Charlie Sheen?
Aramis.
Okay, Aramis. Anyway, Aramis, everyone else gets knocked out, and he's like, no, fuck it, I'm going to kill him. And he shoots him point blank with the musket. The only way that musket, that gun is ever lethal. Because later on, we see them shooting from the carriage. I'm like, there's no way they're going to hit those guys with that shooting gun.
Accuracy.
So, with a musket ball.
Yeah.
I think later on, the flinging the coins from the carriage would probably do more damage to people than those muskets.
So Athos points up, pulls up, and he goes, "Gentlemen, your carriage compliments on the car." Like this,
is that
this
your,
line
is that
reads.
Your Keith or Sutherland?
Well, this line reads playful, but he just like Kiefer barks it, just like, okay, was that supposed to be funny?
Yeah. But yeah, that's your Kiefer, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael.
Oh, that's
my Kiefer right there.
Yeah.
It's like your keeper sounds like it's like a cross between Michael Wincott and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Don't get me into my Arnold, like, pitch perfect. So we want to get into the chase?
Yes, the chase.
What do you keep in your sacred snack chamber? I will say protein bars and weed for me. How about you?
Oh, mine's a lot of snacks, like a lot of chips. Maybe so. If it's for a carriage ride, it's definitely Bugles, because I enjoy Bugles on the road.
Ooh,
Bugles are always a road food. Like when we stop at a gas station, my wife will bring me a bag of Bugles without asking.
Do you cover your fingers in the?
No, you can't do that anymore. You have to have tiny supple fingers.
That's a children's game.
The holes, Robin, have gotten smaller. Okay, the holes in the Bugle.
Yeah, I think mine would consist of bags of Haribo, like gummy sweets, and then withered fruit that I intended to eat, but then just wasn't in the mood for.
He opens it up and there's just flies everywhere. It's just like a bunch of old rancid fruit.
It's like sliced open oranges that are just dried into husks, because you're like, I cut them open and everything. I was going to eat it. I was definitely going to eat it at some point.
And the writers want us to like Athos. They want us to like him. So they're always like pairing him up with funnier people. He's the straight man of this movie. You know, we're in the middle of a chase, Porthos. Champagne?
Yeah.
Right. Something red.
I do love that Athos chuckles though. He's
He
just like,
does,
this
and
is-
they're
we're
trying to
having
make
fun.
him.
We're having
They're
fun.
trying to make him like he understands humor. He just doesn't produce it himself naturally. It doesn't.
Yeah.
He can't. Because later on he laughs when he punches Porthos in the face. That's funny to him. But he's
Yeah.
also drunk. Yeah, and he laughs like Connor McLeod.
So, okay, my next point of the chase I wanted to comment on was the coin toss. Like,
Mhm.
Aramis tells D'Artagnan to toss the coins into the street.
Redistribute the wealth.
Yeah, and he just kind of just drops the entire payload just right in one place, and everybody
Oh,
scrambles.
you felt he should
Rather
more
than-
of Mardi Gras it a little.
Yeah.
You should be taking the coins and sowing them like seeds over a field.
Gotcha.
That
Yeah.
way you get a prolonged crowd as you go down the road instead of just one massive group that it's easy to ride around.
Also, he definitely murdered somebody by throwing that box.
Oh yeah.
Some
Did you
urban-
actually? The one thing I wanted to mention is that did you notice in that crowd of people that swarm all those coins that you see Two-Face just being like, "What? No, oh!" and Schumacher stole that as well. It's crazy.
That's
very
right enough. He's just
expensive
like, yeah,
cameo.
how can I get I just throw some little coins at him. There you go. It worked for the Musketeers. I was convinced. I hadn't seen this in a while. When he said that, I assumed he was going to start like throwing, because like, oh, we can't have like a machine gun, but maybe he can like fling the coins back at them as if they were
Ooh.
bullets somehow or something. And then when he just dumped them all in the one spot, I was a bit like, oh, that seems a bit of a waste. And two, I just kept thinking of like Mr. Burns doing that in The Simpsons to try to like improve his public image, and a coin getting like lodged in Lenny's head, and I'm like taking it out and blood just gushing everywhere and stuff. It's like, that's a terrible idea to just fling a load of coins at people. Like, it's gonna do some damage, man.
I didn't even
That
think
and-
about the fact that he's known alcoholic Kiefer Sutherland is
Yeah.
always drinking wine in this movie.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, well, that's not
and
great.
that's why he's cheerful. He's like, "Yes, I get to have a scene and drink from a bottle here or drive."
As
So
the chase goes on,
Very conscientious.
Porthos seems like he's kind of half cut already. Like, he seems that, they start drinking, but it seems like Porthos, it seemed to me like he's a bit rummy. He's a bit sort of like
Porthos
loosey-goosey.
doesn't go into he didn't go to the thing sober. He didn't show up for work that day sober.
Porthos
Well,
has
he's
never
just
hungover
like, how
because
many
he's
people-
always just a little bit drunk.
he's like, "How many people do I have to execute before they bring D'Artagnan out?" Because I
He's gotta drink.
We did see like both Cyclops and the Cardinal were drinking wine. Maybe it was when they were standing around waiting. It's like, yeah, there's a casket of wine over there. Porthos is like, don't mind if I do. Just
Under his hood, he
Yeah.
pulls up a little thing. Porthos always carries a straw. That's what I'm hoping.
Also, the wine he announces that it's an excellent 24 Cabernet. Like, oh, the wine from last year isn't like nothing aged.
Oh, well, I think we skimmed over when he's using the axe too. There's another good callback joke because he talks about the gift from
The Tsarina of Tokyo.
the Tsarina of Tokyo, and it's kind of referencing back to the Queen of America and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, yeah. So it's
There's
just
no such thing.
He's full of
Of
shit.
course, in 1620 something, Tokyo was not a thing. Tokyo didn't become a thing until 1868.
There we go.
So very
Got
very
you.
ahead of his
Wow.
time.
It could be that
Swordboys.
he's not the only Doctor Who, or like the Paul McGann's not the only Doctor Who. Oliver Platt will play Doctor Who in the future, and then has come back in time to be in this film. It's just like, it would make perfect
He'd be a
sense.
great
to me.
Doctor Who.
So they
He actually
have
would be.
they have a chase scene in a carriage. Great, awesome. The end of it's what I really want to talk about
Oh, absolutely.
is when Kiefer Sutherland blows it up.
this wild turn
Yeah.
into, I assume it's a mercenary camp or something like that.
Yeah, they go past the
I hope so.
a camp of remember they are getting ready for war with England, so maybe this is a muster camp for
Yeah.
whatever.
Like, are these French
These are soldiers.
soldiers?
These are soldiers. They're wearing brown. If you notice, none of them are wearing the red tabard, so
Yeah.
they're not.
So they're either
And they've got gunpowder in giant kegs. So they're like cannoneers and,
Yeah.
I assume everybody's ears, like if you're a musketeer, you're a cannoneer, you're a staffeteer.
Executioner.
Take a piece of weaponry and add ear at the end.
Yep. And I'd like to talk about this. Did they ever do this on Mythbusters? I wish they had. Can you pour brandy into something? I know brandy will kind of catch on fire at some point, but it's not. I've had a French dessert. I've had what's it called when you put fire on top of dessert?
Oh, like a creme brulee.
No, not a creme brulee. That's when you burn on top.
That's a like an English Christmas dessert is the Christmas pudding, and you soak it in brandy and you set it on fire. Like that's so yeah, totally.
But can you ignite gunpowder by shooting it?
Oh yeah, if you don't load a ball into one of those little, flintlock things, like there are flames that fly out the front of those guns because of the gunpowder.
So he wasn't shooting it with a bullet. Right. He was shooting it with the fire of he basically loaded it and ignited the fire, because that flint, we know the flint in his gun will start a fire.
Yeah.
But he's just basically shooting it at that, just kind of go play.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, granted, that is something that the gun boys would go into more detail on.
Those guys.
Well, I mean, there's the niche podcast into Musketeers. They get into it, I'm sure. But sorry, now.
No, I was just gonna say I'm pretty sure Stephen Herrick just also wanted to get in like one sort of Young Guns shot as well for like promotional purposes. It's just like
that is very Doc Holliday.
It's like he's got the hair, he's got the beard, just put a gun in his hand.
Holiday? He's Doc something in that movie.
I can't remember who he plays in, but yeah.
Quick horse check-in, by the way. Number one, my daughter watched this with me. We rewatched it, and she flinched every time Kiefer's like, just slamming those fucking horses, just whipping the shit out of them. But we must say that our French stallion Stabby is left behind, because they are riding the Cardinals' white stallions, for wild stallions. Maybe for the rest of the movie, I don't know, but that's what they're riding into the next cut. I know.
There's Whitey, Bitey, Ricky, and Mo. Those are the 4 horses that they're on currently. Whitey, Bitey, Ricky, and Mo. Someone write that down.
Okay. I'm taking a note because I don't want to forget this. I
good luck figuring out which one is which.
I wanted to name the horses after Rocky Horror characters. Like one would be named Riff Raff, the other one would be Magenta, Columbia, and Rocky.
Yeah, but Whitey, Bitey, Ricky, and Mo's easy to say.
Besides,
also, why would you call a white horse Magenta?
Now you're just confusing everybody.
Honestly, I confuse all white horses. Like they're all the same name.
They're not all the same.
Sorry, I'm a little racehorsist.
Hey,
you're a raceketeer. So they ride through the countryside. They blew up this muster point with their carriage in kind of a Gungan style. Oh, Misa having a problem, bombad general kind of thing.
Big old boomas
go in and make a.
It's a magnificent shot though of just that, like the carriage on fire, mildly grazing past things and things instantly blowing up. Yes. But it's like within a fraction of a second, because it's just like, well, it's been 10 minutes. We got to have something big and stupid.
Is this going to play in the movie? Oh yeah, it'll play. It's not going to look weird. No,
we'll make a point to show one guy carrying a barrel, tripping over another barrel, and then spreading the powder all over the ground.
Yes.
And himself.
So all it's covered in gunpowder. Just hit that little pile, and the whole thing's going to go up.
Yeah. So that was me. And
as we know, as I learned from the movie Napoleon, these people love cannons. They love cannons. So there's going to be gunpowder everywhere.
Yeah. So Richelieu has his box of pigeons brought out, and they tie little
bring me my box of pigeons.
They tie the little wanted posters to the ankles and then let him off. I really wish that he was talking to a group of bounty hunters instead, because I would really love to hear the 17th century equivalent of no disintegrations. But
can I get can I make a pause for a little pigeon facts?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that homing pigeons, like I didn't realize that they don't fly both ways. They don't be like, all right, take this to that, and
No.
they whisper in the birds. They know how to get home,
Yeah.
and so they're brought in boxes from their home to a place.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But the way that Richelieu is using them does not make any sense.
No.
He's like, go find the bounty hunters, pigeons. And
He in normal times, I've read this because I like books about war. They will go, and if they're in a war and they're in a camp, they will bring along pigeons that are ready to have babies because the babies have to grow up in the camp or they can't fly to the camp. And then they take them from the camp and say, okay, these are the camp number 1 pigeons. And they take them to a second camp. They're like, now these pigeons will only go back to this camp.
Yeah.
Every time you do, you have to fucking take them somewhere else to have them bring back. And you basically imagine a pigeoneer. Imagine the pigeoneers that have to logistically figure this shit out. And they're just like, all right, we have 9 camps. I need every bird there born there to be brought to another camp. And then once that's done, how do you know when it? Oh no, I'm holding 2 of them. Like, well, they're both gray pigeons. How do I know which one came from? Oh,
whoa, careful.
All pigeons look the same.
They're all rats with wings.
Also, I've never seen a baby pigeon, so I don't know if they exist.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They sprout full formed from
Yeah.
the earth.
Like Hera, they come out of Zeus's mouth. They just regurgitate their fully formed young.
No, but this scene, I like to imagine like Cyclops is fully aware that like what the Cardinal's doing is complete bullshit. The Cardinal just wants to do his fly, my pretties, fly, and then the Cyclops is like, yeah, it's very good, sir. And it turns to like another one and goes like, yeah, go take care of that, would you? Because
You're gonna
all
tell
these
him, 'cause
pigeons
none
are
of
just
the-
flying.
None of these pigeons are gonna go anywhere. Like one pigeon comes back, and you're like, God damn it, these pigeons are stupid.
It's just like we
No,
gotta
we
get
have-
someone. There's gonna be a lot of pigeon shit all over the goddamn place tomorrow. Like the whole city square is gonna be covered in this thing now.
Now I want you to deliver this as because you're a human and you know where to go. But listen, we have to entertain the Cardinal, so I want you to wear this pigeon suit. Okay,
Right.
when you deliver the message, wear the pigeon suit. Okay.
You didn't know this either, but they had to train. That's how they trained their messengers back then. Messengers had to be born in the camp, and then they could go home.
Well, you can make a lot of money, and you would. I mean, anybody would want to dip their beak in that kind of cash, you know.
I'm from a different state. I can walk to my house without any sort of GPS. It's over 200 leagues. Let's put it that way to get to my home, but I can get there.
The guy would have said the same thing until I got lost somehow
you got
in central Manchester yesterday and got
You
let
got
out
lost.
to the goddamn woods.
You got lost in the town you live in and walk around. It's not like you're driving around and then walking because, there's a disconnect between driving and walking. You're walking somewhere all the time and you just fucking got lost walking where you live.
Yeah, I think I'm almost proud of it as an achievement, quite frankly.
I once got lost. My only good European story. I have a few, but one good European story is I got lost in France, in Florence, Italy. And I agree with you. It's you people over there with your streets that are weirdly windy and not straight. It's extremely confusing. And I got completely, utterly lost. And I had to, I was so far away that I couldn't ask people for directions because they didn't speak English. I was away from that like central part of probably Florence where people are like, ugh, I have to know English because stupid Americans are going to come here and buy stuff from me. I was so far outside the zone. I was literally like a caveman, like drawing in the dirt, luckily we were near a cathedral and there, unfortunately, like 1,000 cathedrals in Florence. So it didn't help.
So you can burst in and be like, sanctuary, sanctuary.
Like a true hunchback. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do.
I have to meet someone by the ruins. Do you know where the ruins are?
Where are the ruins? I have to be there by noon.
Yeah. The last thing I want to mention in this scene before we get to the tavern is we get the trailer line, all for one and more for me.
Oh, so
yeah.
Good. So good.
He's so sassy.
I don't understand why he says it here.
For the trailer.
He's talking to
the trailer.
He's talking to a pigeon. He's holding the pigeon. He goes, "All for what? More for me." And the pigeon's like, "Coo, And he lets
For
it
Michael
go.
Wincott to walk up and be like, are you trying to talk to me?
No.
There was also a great cardinal line that we breezed past earlier when he has D'Artagnan captured, and he says, "Oh, you might have been a great musketeer, but I guess we'll never know, won't we?" And it's just a little sauce he puts on
So
it.
good. Yeah.
Well, now you made a good point. You said this earlier, and I think we've been trying to figure out like what everyone loves Tim Curry, but what is he doing? He is wooing everyone in every scene. It's not that he's flirting here.
Yeah.
He's flirting when he doesn't have to flirt, and that I think you've distilled Tim Curry's magic. He's always flirting.
He was sexy as a toxic smog gas in Fern Gully. Like that's the man's power.
He's sexy as a giant 7'3" rubber Satan man.
Yeah,
he's just sexy. It's just something about him because he's flirting. He's always flirting. Oh. Even someone he's about to kill, he's like, maybe there's he's always doing this sassy little head movement.
No, I'm just like that's why I call him Curry. Always putting the sauce and stuff, just a little saucing things up a little bit.
Tim Curry comes and he gives an expose. He's like, listen, he flips around the chalkboard and it's ABF. Always be flirting. Always be
flirting. Oh man, you took away one of my jokes. I looked up in French. Always be winching. I got a question for you, Niall. In Europe, you're now our European correspondent. In Europe as a whole, is there something that we should see Tim Curry in that probably we haven't? Is there like a Tim Curry thing that we're all like, oh, like we know him from Rocky Horror, we know him from Congo, the normal stuff?
No, I actually wouldn't say so. It's not. I think all the big Tim Curry hits are just the ones that are just known internationally. So like your Home Alone 2s or your Clue and the Wild Thornberries things.
No, I was expecting you to come back and be like, oh yeah, there's this thing where he plays the Loch Ness Monster. You should see it. There's always something where you're like, what? And it ran for 19 seasons.
They of course did like the Worst Witch movie way back in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
But no, I think he's got that status of cult actor that everyone knows his best stuff because people will seek it out because Tim Curry is in it. So it's just sort of all his best material, I think, is just out there in the world.
I should know if there was like something we didn't see before, like, if before Rocky Horror, he was in, and it was fantastic.
I'm pretty sure Rocky Horror is what broke him into the world. And then after that, people were just like, we gotta get more and more of this guy. We just can't get enough of Curry.
He recorded 3 albums. I've never listened to those before, but
singing albums?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a good singer. Like
he did background vocals for a Carly Simon album I read as well. but yeah.
And
also I have to go through his hometown every day because
is that when you got lost and you just meandered into Tim Curry's hometown?
No, but he's in. He comes from Warrington. I mean, when I got the train every day, we stop in Warrington. It's one of those annoying stops that like no one ever gets on or off, but it's just like and you have to sit there for 5 minutes going. And then
all
right.
Off
again. Yeah.
The tavern, guys. We want to get to that before we have to wrap up. I just want to mention the establishing shot really helps the scene because as I was thinking back in the movie, I was like, "Oh, why do they stop? It's an emergency. We gotta cut off this spy before she gets to Buckingham." But then we see, there's actually thunder and lightning. They don't stop for funsies. They stop because they have to.
It's 200 leagues, Rob, and it's going to take a while to get there. And if you look right before they walk in, this is a fun little fact. Right before they walk in, as they ride up in the storm, and they jump off their horses. Look in front of them. The guy that rides his horse by, that is the brother of the dead Count de Winter. Mm. That's the brother. That's the guy who later on in the next cut, we're going to find out is looking for the Countess de Winter. So he's probably in that bar or has just left that bar. He's looking for Countess de Winter. So they're on her trail. She may have stayed here. Although this seems like kind of rough for what she seems like a lady that goes to, posh Airbnbs, whereas these guys are like for hooring and stuff. So, all right. So winching.
Yes.
Let's talk about winching.
This scene makes me deeply uncomfortable.
I like that this scene makes you deeply uncomfortable.
That's surprising. based on your previous
I mean,
statements on the
It's no
podcast.
stewardess school, but I guess
It's-
it does make me a little uncomfortable. It makes me
I mean-
uncomfortable in the fact that these women are, yeah, whatever. What do you want to
guys
call them?
They're breaking earlier in the scene too, or earlier in the cut. I believe Porthos specifically says to D'Artagnan, like, you can't drink because you're too young. Bypassing the fact that they're in France and people are allowed to drink when you're like 2 years old, you know, that kind of thing. But then when you see D'Artagnan, Porthos has not let this rule go, and they're all just sitting necking stuff together. So if you're already breaking that rule, you can swing by as a winch now. All bets are off.
The rules are different when it comes to drinking and driving. You know, if you're not in a chase, you can drink as much as you want. But as soon as you are drinking and driving, I think it's the Depard-donts rule. You have to be a certain age.
Well, those are called the Depard-donts or the Depard-donts.
Right,
And
there you go.
the Depard-don't of this movie is you can't drink and drive.
You didn't see that Porthos taking a piss in the back of the car is there at one point too, during the
I'm glad when this first starts, they do establish that their swords are behind them. There is a sword laying on the table. And again, they have not had their swords this entire time. I don't know where they went, but they are back. Thank God. Hey guys, this is another truth that Swordboys are always going to tell you the truth. No winches in the 18th century in 1800s in this type are going to be this hot.
Oh
yeah.
not.
They're all hot. Everybody's hot.
The one on the right, the actress name is Maria Ford, billed as Wench. Lots of Skinamax stuff besides this. And then, Nicola Cordy is playing the barmaid that gives D'Artagnan the eyes. I nothing on hers, but yeah, I was just looking for some Wench credits.
Yeah, that's kind of sucks. But you know, this movie is saying three things. There are two different ways to woo a woman. It is with passion and it is with words.
Mm-hmm.
And we as sword boys always say consent is number one above all else. These women seem very consent. They're consentateers.
Yeah,
Let's put it this way.
They are willingly participating.
This is a willing participation in this.
Maria
Everyone
seems
seems to be having a good time. Also, I assume these guys have cardinal money that they found. They're like little pouches of money in the cardinals. I also don't feel like the Musketeers are poor. Does it ever feel like they are like poor put upon soldiers? They seem like they.
Yeah, you assume that the King's Guard are going to be like well compensated, so they probably have wealth that they themselves have accumulated.
But they're on the run, so they can't go to the bank.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Unless they have like gold laced like sewn into their tunics or something.
Right.
Precautionary thing.
Well, that's why Porthos is so big.
Yeah.
It's because he.
Yeah, they're gonna walk into this establishment and they're gonna start ordering all of this food, and then Porthos is going to whip out a little piece of plastic, and it's going to say it's going to have the Musketeer symbol on it, and it says Porthos, good for forever. He's going to say never leave home without it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So always be winching is c'est toujours une fille. Always be winching. I looked that up, and I looked up je suis tombé. Je suis tombé means I fell down, which is a good one to have in this scene.
What did you say? Toujours des filles?
I don't know what I said because it's French. I said, okay. So toujours une fille. It's Sous Toujous. Toujours une fille. That's what it says. I have a feeling winching doesn't exactly translate.
Yeah. French is not a one-to-one translation.
No, I have a feeling it means like, I don't know what I'm saying, but if it's something bad, I'm sorry.
I knew a few fillies in my day.
Yeah, I think
God damn it, I haven't been in this movie.
Literally translated, I think it's every day, like in women or something like that.
Yeah.
Every day in women.
But yeah, like you said, there's two schools of thought. Porthos is, listen, kiss now, do other stuff later. Aramis is talk now, do other stuff later.
And Athos is drink and ignore everyone.
Athos is like, have money,
hard to get.
Discover your wife is a murderer. That old chestnut. But we don't learn about that till next cut. So let's let's focus in on
Yeah.
making out and talking pretty.
Let's,
What I
let's
said
do that.
was when you put it back into Google, this is great. When you put it back into Google and translate it back, I said, always be a girl.
That's what I thought. Fee is a girl, isn't it?
Always be a girl. Always be a girl. Oh my God. So we see the wenching is and then we the next scene, because you cut it there with his dancing, which is good because the whole next scene is like kind of more of our De Winter storyline. So Rick, excellent job cutting
You're
it.
You're the winter of discontent
of Porthos's dancing. First, Porthos shows both sides of his hands, which you do as you dance, so that you know you don't have knives on it. At this time, it's very important that you show the person you're dancing with you have no sword or knife in your hand. So you do like a for those not watching, we do like a Las Vegas dealer and show both sides of your hand. Like, I'm out, nothing in my hands. Let's dance. And I tried looking up this song, and it just kept going back to the goddamn Bryan Adams song. I couldn't find. I was looking for this. Like, I wanted to know if this is a real French ditty, because sometimes that happens in movies where you'll get or it's just gibberish that they made up.
Yeah.
It might be something like Cayman made up or something. I don't know.
You know, the reason that Porthos jumps us is because like a band of dudes comes into the tavern. And it kind of reminded me of riding the subway in New York, where you're just sitting there minding your own business. All of a sudden, a band shows up and starts playing music. I don't usually have the same reaction as Porthos has. I'm not like, ooh, a jaunty tune. It's like, oh God, they're gonna ask for money.
Or like at a cheesy, I would say cheesy Mexican restaurant where the mariachi just out of nowhere are walking up and they stand in front of your table and you're like, can you fuck off? Seriously, this is
trying to have a conversation here.
Do we think this would be better though had it been like Bryan Adams with a lute? Maybe with the fake nose on, stand up on stage and start belting out.
And Rod Stewart. All with big noses, all with giant fake noses and mustaches.
They have to have wigs too, because that Rod Stewart hair back then would not.
Oh, they pull a ZZ Top and they spin their whatever.
Spin the loop.
I actually think that would be horribly awesome and Disney. It would be so Disney to do that.
Yeah.
You called them the Musketeers. And, I was like, yeah, that's their whole. It turns out they have the other McGowan character from other. Oh, he's like one of their brothers, and he shows up later. He's like part of the rhythm section or something. The joke makes itself like it comes together so beautifully. But
and also brings up a question about Robin's background. Another visual joke.
Oh man,
Robin's background is a picture from the movie that didn't happen in this scene, but they're at this scene.
Yeah,
this is just a promo shot. So
I actually took this when I was hanging out with them. I was like, guys, look over here.
When you were on set, this oversexed kid who's just like, I'm horny. I'm going to the wenching scene.
Robin was a Make-A-Wish kid.
Oh, yeah. He got better.
Chris O'Donnell looked at me and was like, Robin, that's a great name.
You keep that in mind.
Holy great names, Batman.
Of course, Joel Schumacher saw the Chris O'Donnell's awkward kiss in this scene and was just like, I think I can have an even more uncomfortable one in Batman Forever. So he threw in that awful, like, wait, doesn't Batman kiss the girl? And the little flute flourish, which is, I'll defend that movie to death.
But when Porthos starts dancing, you look in the background of Chris O'Donnell and he's peeling away plastic lips. What?
Rubber lips are enough to fuck your charms.
So and this is where this cut ends.
Right.
Yep.
We got some good stuff coming up.
So this is the least sorty this movie has been so far. I know it comes again. The only thing we see is there's literally a sword sitting on a table.
I have to ask you guys a question because obviously rule of threes applies, and it should apply triply for the Three Musketeers. So
I mean, it is Three Musketeers.
We have
there are four of them.
Earlier in the movie, they say that Charlie Sheen's character takes death very seriously. In this cut, we hear that Kiefer Sutherland takes drinking very seriously. Is there at any point mentioned about Porthos taking something very seriously?
He takes wenching very seriously because he says, rarely be a fool. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows he's being the fool, but he's never the fool when it comes to ladies. He is
Mm.
always be the girl. So, as the French say,
But
always
it just
be the girl.
feels like there should
Always be
be
lippy.
like the line should be there. Like someone might like, oh, why is Porthos doing that? He takes something very seriously. So it feels
Mhm.
odd that there's not. And also,
Takes
is there
food very seriously.
something along those lines? Yeah, totally.
Executing
And
peasants.
also, did they ever? Maybe it was there and I missed it. But like, so he has the Queen of America line, then the Tsarina of Tokyo. Is
Mhm.
there a third one as well? Because again, comedy rule of threes indicates that there should also be.
You know what?
a
Great
third?
question. I don't know. I don't know if there is one more joke later on where he pulls out some ridiculous thing.
Yeah, it should be like the
We'll have to watch for
Empress
it.
of Shetland or something. You gotta throw something in there. But
I got this pony from the.
Yeah.
I'm a gift from the Duke of Butterton.
maybe they were gonna do one, and then they just sat down. They're like, no matter what combination of words came together, it's like it's not as funny as Tsarina of Tokyo. They'll just forget it. just abandon the joke midway through.
They ran out of glorious titles to attribute to women.
Mm. Yeah.
Like Queen, Tsarina, Madam President.
Milady.
And with this, we're halfway through the movie, right, Rick?
That's absolutely right. So come back next time. Athos complains about his ex-wife. The Musketeers find themselves under cannon fire from a nearby castle. Richelieu tries and fails to seduce the queen. D'Artagnan is forced to abandon Athos and flee toward Calais on his own. Richelieu tries and succeeds in gaslighting the king. After collapsing from exhaustion, D'Artagnan wakes to find himself at the mercy of Milady de Winter. Beware of the danger that hides behind beauty in Cut 4 of the Three Musketeers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Woo!
This is good. This is good Disney fun. I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's been great so far. It's fun going back through it. It's
Yeah,
fun going through. I don't mind the three main actors. In my mind was, oh, does this still hold up? It holds up.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think it's a really solid film. I'm surprised isn't more fondly remembered than it is. My only beef is that I think at the end it kind of gets a bit bland or something. Like even like how do they take care of the cardinals? Like, oh, he gets knocked into some water and you just never see him again. It's like there's no big villain death. It kind of feels like they're like, yeah, we got to the end, and it just kind of wraps up. But it doesn't have the same at the start when all the stuff with the triple duel and stuff. It's really
they had to
popping
be-
then.
They had to be historically accurate. Cardinal Richelieu actually doesn't die at this point in history. So he just, he comes back. He's just around. He's just wet.
Yeah. I just kind of the historical accuracy. You could have been like, oh, you just kill him in this, and then you introduce the cardinal's brother or whatever in the next one. If you're going to do a second,
The cardinal's son. Oh, he had a son. Oh, what a scam. That's a Depard-don't. Just in case you're wondering,
Yeah.
if you're part of the clergy, please don't have children.
Yeah. But I've always been like really curious about why Stephen Herrick as a director too went like why his career just sort of went off the boil too, because it's like this is really solid.
It is.
Bill and Ted was great. Critters, all loads of fun stuff back in the 90s, and then it's like
We covered this in cut one. I think something. He made Life or Something Like It with Angelina Jolie, which completely tanked. And I think from then on he's been
Put
doing
in
TV
jail.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just a
now,
shame.
why don't you? We love having a fourth on here because that's what the Three Musketeers is nothing without their fourth, without their Dogtanian.
Yes.
So, could you take a couple seconds and tell everybody what you got coming up? Any plugs? Anything?
Oh yeah, so the show that's currently ongoing is that me and my co-host John are doing Miami Minutes, where we're breaking down the 1987 craptacular classic Miami Connection 1 minute at a time. That airs once a week. We're nearly done that actually. Now we've got about like 20 episodes left. So yeah.
Cool.
It's a letter from my father. Oh my god!
We just that episode just released there.
Love that movie. Love Miami Connection. One of my favorite movies. No swords, but love that movie. Wait, are there swords?
No swords.
Okay.
Oh, actually,
Is there a sword? I feel like one of the guys has a sword, but I might be thinking of Samurai Cop.
I feel
Which
like
lives in the-
nunchucks would be more appropriate.
Nunchucks, yes. People love nunchucks back then.
Yeah.
right, what else you got?
And then, of course, my main show, my pride and joy, is Batminute, which is, of course, a podcast where me and the same John, break down and talk about the Batman films. And we last year finished Mask of the Phantasm, but because that was only like 76 minutes, we didn't feel like we had enough of that animated universe. So we're actually doing a mini season. We're about to start recording about Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Ooh.
And one of our remits too is that we're trying to get in all the people we couldn't get in for Mask of the Phantasm, which includes all you fine fellas. So if you should want to talk about Return of the Joker, you got an open invitation. There's a Robin in it too for you there, Robin.
What?
He's back for this one. So
I've never seen an episode of Batman Beyond, but yeah,
I watched a lot of Batman Beyond when it was airing on TV.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's one of Mask of the Phantasm. We got so much praise it kind of overshadows a lot of this stuff. But like, Return of the Joker is a gem, and it's just a nice change of pace too for us because we have to talk about like the same basic character every season. But now it's a new Batman. It's a new world. It's a whole range of new characters, and the cast in that movie is freaking stacked as well. You'd forget like how many like big names and stuff in it too. So yeah, that'll be coming up. I might as well just tell people because in my mind it's going to start airing on April Fool's Day because the Joker, April Fool's Day. That's what I'm working towards in my mind. So hopefully now that it's out there in the world, it'll make me edit to that date and it'll start coming out. And that's going to be in chunk format that we're swiping from you guys because don't want to do a whole season.
We're cuts. So my other show is chunks.
Oh, of course, yes.
Cast and the Furious is chunks, of course.
Funny enough, this cut 3 is actually going to be, if our recording schedule is correct, this cut will be coming out on April 2nd. So
there you go.
So it would have already started, I suppose.
Yes, I hope everyone enjoyed the first episode of Batminute Beyond: Chunks of the Joker.
Well, speaking of stack cast, next cut we'll come back to Rebecca De Mornay wearing a bustier, so that's about as stacked and racked as you need to get. And you can find us on swordboys.biz. We've got all of our socials, and please follow us on YouTube. Rick has started the infusion of Swordboys content to YouTube. He's got every I saw you actually had videos. Like as of now, you have. I mean, this is coming out in April, so at that point there'll be like 4 months of content. But we're recording this in January. There will be there's a lot of content that's going to be out there. Whole episodes to listen to, plus any of our social stuff is on there too. My wife, every night before she goes to bed, she will sit down and watch from my subscriptions the Swordboys social content, and she laughs every time.
Yep, you can subscribe to youtube.com. I think it's /@Swordboys or something like that. But yeah, I've been playing catch up with all of the shorts that I was releasing on my main YouTube. It's now it's going to be exclusively on the Swordboys YouTube. So if you follow me as an individual on YouTube, stop it. Go follow Swordboys instead. I don't need subscribers.
Unfollow Rick and go over and listen. It's another fun way to do it. Just another way to get our stuff out there.
Exactly.
And because we got t-shirts and stuff at our TeePublic, go get a Clompy t-shirt. And I got to add Whitey, Bitey, Ricky, and Mo to the list. And
ABW.
Yeah. So, and Depard-donts and Depard-donts.
The whole list.
I write down dumb crap, and then I come back later. I'm like, is that shirt worthy? Is that really shirt worthy? So thanks again to everybody for being on. And thank you, Niall, for being on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me, guys.
So, clang, clang.
Clang,
all
clang.
for one.
Oh, yeah. All
and
for one for all. Oh, yeah.
One for all.
Do it again.
All for one.
One for all.
One for all.
And more for me.
All for one. And all